Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Mental Moments. Of course, this month we have been covering a whole lot of things. We've been covering Pride. This is also Pride Month. And so we're celebrating all people, but tonight, we are just focusing on men's mental health. This is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we just really want to shed some light on things that we can do to help the men in our communities. I mean, we are as good as the next person beside us. We're a community, and it takes every last one of us to build a strong and effective community. Okay, so listen. So I have an awesome guest on the show this evening. I am super stoked. I met him, I don't know, maybe like a year ago, maybe I think maybe like a year ago, and it the rest was history. We were in a movie. We were at a movie premiere, and he is a true brother. So let's just get right into it. His name and it's Ronald Woodall, affectionately known as Ronald Wink Woodall. And he is the founder and CEO of the Talent Connect, an entertainment service that offers talent management among the industry related services and resources. He's also a proud member of the National Talent Managers Association since 2016 and a diverse representation since 2021. He is renowned for his contributions to the career of award-winning actor Tobias you're gonna have to tell me Truvion and Terrell Hill, and several other talent creatives. He has a background as a childhood actor of over 23 years of experience in education, including school administration. And he is an advocate for mental health. And he is a spokesperson. And I met him in the talent industry. And also, I don't know, I didn't see that in his bio, but he is also a great orator. Welcome to the stage, everybody. Wink, we're gonna call him Wink, Mr. Woodall.
Hey. How
Hey, how
are
are you?
you?
I'm good.
That,
How about you?
that was a pretty cool introduction. I appreciate that.
No,
I don't think I can pay you that much, so just take care of me on the opposite end.
no, I got, I
Yeah,
got, I gotta say what you do. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
it's the totality of a man,
yeah,
and I think that's a great segue into our actual show tonight, which we are talking about men's mental health. And
yeah,
oftentimes, men feel like they don't have a lot to offer as women, as it comes to the relationship between a man and a woman. We feel like perhaps the reason why a man is not attentive is because he may not be into us. But in all actuality, it could be a deeper situation that's going on. He may not even know who he is. He may have suffered from some traumatic experiences.
yeah.
So it all goes hand in hand with your mental health of who you actually are.
Right.
You agree?
Agreed. I mean, there's so many factors, for men or for people in general. You don't want to presume a reason why it feels like someone may not be into you. It may be, like you said, that something's on the mind, or it might just be that person's affect, right? It might just be that person's personality, to not respond or respond in certain ways. And so, on the opposite end, you want to be careful not to read that in any way in particular, especially negatively, because sometimes it
Right.
can be a positive thing, right? It could be that they're paying attention so much that they're at awe, right?
Well, that
So,
may not even be their love language, and that might not be the way in which they communicate.
indeed, indeed, indeed,
So,
indeed, yeah. So hold on, okay, before we get any further, I want to congratulate you. This Natasha, this is great. I've done a few lives, but I've never done anything where I'm coming into the back room. This virtual space is something else, man. They had me in the back room. They served me water through the phone. They served me refreshments. And it's like here's your cue card and all this, like, extra stuff. I was like, man, I'm feeling this. And then I turned around and realized I'm still in my house.
See, and that's the great thing about technology.
Yeah.
But look, everybody, since he on a little bit on joke mode,
Uh-huh.
let me just share with everybody. So I don't know, was it maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, we
Mhm.
all met in New York for this movie called For What It's Worth, which is streaming on BET Plus. So if you have not
Mhm.
subscribed to BET Plus, please do so. And as a matter of fact, okay, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna play one of the clips because that particular movie um, focused on mental health. But
Mhm.
I met this young man. In New York. We all went to New York. And of
Mhm.
course, I did a twofold thing. I went to New York for work, and then we had a moment out in Times Square where um, a bit of the movie, like the preview of the movie, was out on the marquee in Times Square. And
Right.
we were just really excited, the
It was an
whole
amazing moment. It was an
it
amazing
really
moment.
was, and those are some of the things that makes your heart skip a beat. It also helps you to get up in the morning because
Yes.
you do have a why, or you do see some of the things that you have accomplished. But
Yes.
when I tell y'all, so we all just hung out, and I was like, "Hey, y'all want to just come to the job and just check it out, come." And so right off the bat, like we just did like an impromptu interview, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you and I just worked so well together. I was like,
We
okay,
just bounced.
yeah, it just
We just
right.
bounce off each other. Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. So, on For What It's Worth, which is a film based on, sibling relationships, foster care, and overall mental health, and how things kind of spiral out of control. Once the siblings who did well for themselves came back together, to care for one of the siblings. Natasha Barnes-Owens was one of the actresses on the show, and she did an amazing job, Miss Kelsaw. So I'm not going to give it up for those who didn't get a chance to watch it, but she did amazing. I had the pleasure of serving on the production team as consultant producer, and we've just been having a lot of fun with it. I mean, it's been a film. Like I said, it's a lot of social impact that we've been able to offer. Atlanta, we did a screening there. We did a talk back. Washington D.C., we did the same thing in New York, and we plan on doing a few more things. I can't really talk
The
about it
message is
until it's
so
official. But
the message is so great. Like
yeah.
this is a movie that, and we're not just saying this, everybody, just because we were a part of this great production. And shout out to Larissa Bates and
Yeah.
also to Loretta.
Hmm.
Um, awesome
Yeah.
production,
Hmm.
but awesome movie. But you really can sit down with your friends and your family
Hmm.
just to talk about just like the various scenes in the movie. So what I'm going to do right now before we come back, I want to play a little clip of For What It's Worth.
You know, it's crazy because everyone expects me to show up for them. But who the hell is going to show up for me? Huh? Who's going to show up for me?
Yeah.
And, and that's the narrative for a lot of men.
Yeah.
That's the narrative for a lot of men in our society, is that they're
Yeah.
trying to be this superhero.
Yeah.
And as children, when we are raised, growing up, oftentimes the boys were told not to show emotions, not to cry, man up. Which now we know that it can prove to be, you're doing your child a disservice, because when they become adults, when they get into relationships with other people, you're saying, why doesn't he show emotions? Like, why does he act like he doesn't care?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So, it's interesting because, well, first of all, amazing job by Kevin Savage to pull off that role.
Yes.
Gerard Worth. When I saw that pre-production or in post, actually, I was like, that scene right there, that was powerful. So yeah, man, I think that there are roles that we kind of learn over time, and there is some benefit to there's certain um, there's a certain I wouldn't say expectation, but you know we feel a certain kind of a role as a man, right? In certain respects, but it doesn't mean that we can't have feelings, right? It doesn't mean that we can't hurt. It doesn't mean that we can't express ourselves, and I think that's where it gets confusing,
Yeah.
because there's nothing wrong with someone who can strategically uh, be objective in the situation and not have to weigh in the feelings all of the time. But there has to be a checking point, right? And so a lot of these things are like intergenerational messaging that we get over, from generation to generation to generation. We watch our fathers do it, our fathers' fathers, our fathers' fathers' fathers, right? And then on top of that, you see it on television, right? You see the roles that we're playing. You see these characters, and they tend to take on these roles what are considered to be masculine, but they leave out the other aspect of what is needed to keep the masculinity firm, if that makes any sense. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what you see in that scene that was played out by Kevin and Patrice Covington. She was on the opposite end of that.
Oh,
But
yes. Hey,
but Kev
Patrice.
does an amazing job. That's the narrative for a lot of men, and you may not even really hear that as much. That's something that is felt. Um, and the truth is, it's a space that, and I appreciate the idea or the fact that it's being talked about more and more and more now, because it gives us this platform to at least pay attention even more and be
Yeah.
a little bit more intentional about saying, okay, now how do you address it? What are those steps? And so I'm glad that we're able to have conversations like this, and even have months like this to really identify, men's mental health, or men's wellness month, just
Yeah.
to give us an opportunity to be able to talk about these things.
Because the more we talk about it, the more we can be about it.
Mm-hmm.
The more we feel comfortable enough to share with even more people. I was talking to someone this week, and to some guy this week, and we were talking about mental health and how us ladies, how we view the men as soft when they show emotions, when
Mm-hmm.
they cry, when they share their deepest secrets or their deepest fears. Oftentimes, we will bring that back up.
Yes, weaponized. You've become weaponized to use that against the men, especially in that vulnerable space.
Yeah.
It's already hard to roll against your masculinity role, but when you go there, for someone to take that and use it, that's the kind of thing that will make us go backwards, and so
And not
um
backwards in that relationship,
mhm.
but
Oh
in,
yeah.
in
Yeah,
relationship.
look, this I tried that in my last relationship. I'm not doing it again. I'm done. I tried that. I'm reverting back to what I've learned all my life. Why try something new, get burnt with it, and then continue to get burnt with. I'm gonna go and revert back to the role that I'm used to playing. And so yeah, no, that so if when those moments happen, when those genuine moments are happening, especially for I'm going to say men, but individuals in general, you want to nurture that space. You want to encourage it. You want to
Want to
help
water
walk
it.
it through, right? You want to water it, because you may not be helping out just that moment. You may be helping out not just your relationship, but the other relationships that this man is also connected to. And then of course him being able to show or be in a comfortable space to be able to express himself when he's vulnerable, to be able to do that in public, for others to be able to see that, to feel it, for other children. You know what I'm saying? It just becomes a growing process that continues to evolve over time.
Right. So
Mhm.
tell me, How did you get involved in advocating for mental health? Where
Oh
did
man, so there are so many strands to it, but I'll give you the one that will make most sense on this platform.
platform?
Right, grew up in the inner city Queens. Was childhood actor, Black Spectrum Theater, Queens, New York, Roy Wilkins Park. Carl Clay, appreciate that, man. He's the director there. I was the man in there, man. I was, nobody could touch me. I was doing all the folk tales. I was the lead and everything. I was smashing it. But growing up in the inner city, the truth is, it wasn't that popular. You come home, the fellas are playing either basketball or football. So there was no direct peer pressure, but there was a space of like, I'm talking about going on stage and these cats are talking about getting touchdowns and dunking on people. So, eventually I kind of left the acting world. And, like a lot of young Black men growing up in the inner city, there's a lot of trauma that you're dealing with, a lot of things that you're going through. So for me, working my way through that space in life, all the way through high school, to eventually and thankfully getting into a college program through like a HEOP program because my grades weren't that great. I kind of learned more about myself, you know what I'm saying? Not only social emotionally, but also how much I didn't really love myself up until that point, and so learning to love myself, learning to find the value in myself, and also paying attention to some of the programs that I had to go through in order to get to that stage. I realized that I have a love of helping others, right? Um, I volunteered and I did my internship while I was in college playing football. I did an internship at Hempstead High School under the tutelage of a social worker by the name of Patricia Brown. And in that program, there was so much validation that I was getting from working with the kids and seeing them going through their trauma space and then, helping them out. It was just like, yo, I got to go back. I have to do this. I have to figure out a way to make this a part of what I do. Right. And so that was my path, to be honest with you, was service to children, service to students. Of course, families along the way because you had to connect with families and students. But that was my thing. Graduated with undergrad psychology, undergrad um, uh, Africana studies. I went back, got my school counseling master's, so it was a master's in school education, master's of science in school counseling. And then, I started up as a guidance or a school counselor. And that was my thing, right? Working with children, working with families, working with teachers also, and then from there being, getting tenured, wanting to grow and grow, become more or on a bigger scale to offer service to the community. But for whatever reason, I couldn't grow the way I wanted to, right? And so on the flip side of all of this stuff, right, of the education side, there was this other side of me that was still connected to the entertainment industry. And so I did try acting. I did try acting again. It didn't work out as great. I tried to come back when I left football, try to come back to act in college. Didn't do as great. You're not as cute, when you're expected to do more, right? As a kid, all you have to do is be cute and know how to take direction, and that's
Right.
usually enough to get you through those doors. But with no training up until that point, and going in as a college kid, not having any training since the little fun that I had as a kid, there were people out there that were just like they had chops, and I just didn't have any. And so, it just didn't work out for me. But I was out there at a time where I teamed up with my good friend at the time, Tobias Trevelyan, where we both were going to some of the same events, but he was booking. And so as we were going places, he really needed a voice piece. He couldn't really do it. Not that he couldn't. It was just weird for him to represent himself. So
Right.
so I was there to kind of help out. And so over time, it transitioned right into,
Yeah.
it transitioned into me kind of coordinating and managing him. And then of course, things getting a little bit more serious in the business world. And I had to, have a better URL and a better email than blackboyjoy at yahoo.com, right? So that's when I formed the Talent Connect, and that was in 2015, and it's just been history since. And so the mental health space um, and the entertainment space
Merged.
together kind of merged, and it just became our niche as a company, because the mental health and the mindset, that's so important. If you can't hold on to who you are, you're going to be in trouble. And a lot of people out here are struggling in this world, because it's a space of, like, we all need validation, but unfortunately, in order to get to that next level, we're waiting for others to validate us, unfortunately, with the booking, with the, you got the job, or we love you. But unfortunately, in this business, you hear more no's than yeses. You hear more, it went a different way than it's yours. And
Yeah.
so you have to find ways to continue to learn how to validate yourself.
Yeah.
You have to continue to find ways to keep yourself conditioned, to keep your mind connected to, your sole purpose, and so that's really where the mental health and the entertainment space kind of tied in, was because of that journey of, being a childhood actor myself,
Yeah.
shifting out of it, and then of course going through my own emotional journey, right? And then, just making it make sense, because I believe that God kind of puts you in these positions to figure it out, right? It's either gonna build or break you, right? And so
Yeah.
when I couldn't grow any further in the education space, I made it less about blaming others, and I looked more at myself to say, okay, this means something, right?
Yes.
You're a leader, you have the leadership credentials, right? You have the acting space, you have the credentials there, and you also have the mental health mindset space. How do we marry all three of those things together to make a service that can be offered to folks so that, it can be helpful to the community?
That is amazing, and that especially that you were able to course correct, because
Mm,
sometimes when we have the rejection and things like that, it's hard for us to course correct,
yeah.
and we'll just sit in that space,
Mhm.
which
And
isn't
blame others.
right. Posting the blame versus, going back and say, how can I become a better individual?
Yes,
It
ma'am.
takes a lot of introspection. It takes a lot of self-discovery, self-awareness, being truthful and honest with yourself about who you are. And I know for myself, I know once a week, I mean, not once a week, but once a year, especially around my birthday time, I will pull on my closest friends, whether it's a male or a female, and just say, let's do a check in, because who I think I am may not be who I am presenting to the world.
Mm.
Because I've been with myself all my life and I may think I'm the best thing since sliced bread, but my girlfriends may be like, girl, you controlling, you nasty, you rude, you this, you never know. So I always say that it's always great to have that great support team wherein they're going to be truthful and honest with you about how you show up in the world and how they can help you
Yeah.
present your best self to the world. So look, let's just talk a little bit to our guests there. I see to our audience, I see we got Lynn out there, and
Hey,
then
Lynn.
hey, Lynn. Hey, Dad, I see you. He is such a wealth of knowledge, too. He was on a couple of weeks ago.
What's
And
up,
I,
Dad?
hey, Shakia. Hey, Shakia, girl. And Chocolate Sensation. You was up here last. I wonder who is this Chocolate Sensation. Is that you? Wink, is that you? Is that your
No, it's not me. Trust me. I have enough nicknames. Wink, Ronald. Someone called me something the other day. I was like, oh man, I don't need any more
Z?
nicknames.
See, hey Dwayne, hey Danielle, hey my
Danielle.
daughter, hey all of y'all. We're so glad that you joined tonight, and we're just asking for you to like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Also hashtag mental moments because
Yeah.
you have absolutely no idea. Not just what women are going through on an everyday basis, but you have absolutely no idea that the turmoil that men go through on an everyday basis. And that's just trying
Absolutely.
to navigate their way. And just like after the pandemic,
Hmm.
we all had to redefine who we were.
Absolutely. Oh man. Yo, that pandemic, woo! So many things happened, right?
A
You
whole
had
lot
you
of
had
things happened.
COVID, you had the slaying of all of these young brothers and sisters, right? You had being stuck at home,
You had death,
right? You
death,
had, right,
death.
the loss of folks. You had, you know, people losing
Isolation.
jobs, right? And then it was the fear of the unknown. That's a huge piece right there. So you had so much going on, and that was for me what one of the most. A few things happened, some positive stuff,
Yeah.
but the in terms of that emotional space, that was a tough space for me because you know we lost a lot of people, but that George Floyd space really jacked me up. The last
Mm.
time I saw something like that was when I was in high school. I'm calling my age out right now. I was in high school, and what's my man's name? Rodney King.
Rodney
We
King.
watched this
Oh
man
yeah,
get.
you old. Go ahead.
Hey, hey.
Uh.
I hold on. I was in kindergarten, but still.
I probably was in 12th grade.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, all right. So, I watched him get beat, and that just watching that kind of thing, man, it's so traumatic. Especially someone that looks like you, someone that, and of course the narrative of all your life, especially as a young black man, growing up, your life is already at, dispensable. And then, you know, when you see the police officers, right? It's supposed to be help, right? It's supposed to be community, right?
Right,
And for some people it is, but not for us. For us it's, what did I do wrong,
right.
right? Or not even what did I do wrong, how do I appear so that I don't look like I did something wrong?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I just remember like shortly after, and I think the post is still up there, shortly after the whole thing with George Floyd, probably the next day, I just grabbed my son. I grabbed him. He must have been, what was that, 4 years ago? So he's like 6, 7 years old. And I grabbed him and I hugged him and I cried. I cried. And, because the thing is, if I'm going through this kind of pain and we're still in this kind of state, this world, the world is still in this kind of space, what does that do for my son? You know what I'm saying? What kind of power do I have to, help protect him from those kind of things if this kind of thing is still happening? And
Yes.
so it always puts me back in a space of, contribution space, because when you think about where we are, right? You think about, and speaking, we're in Juneteenth, so this is a great conversation. When you
Right.
think about the people who have laid out their lives for us to be here, even in the pseudo luxury that we have, you have to appreciate that. But the only way we're here is because of those,
Yes.
who came before us, who did some kind of an act to make sure, that the future
Yeah.
generation is good to go. And that's how I felt. I felt like that. I was like, we're still in this space, and I understand that, you know, I'm gonna also have to, be some form of a sacrificial lamb in some form or the other. And sometimes that could just be through some of the things that we're doing, even like right now, having this impact conversation, so that we can help uplift others in the community so that things can be better for the future. And so I just remember hugging my son, and the note, and just kind of identifying, like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you have to be a part, of this experience and have to witness this. But I also, on the flip side, I also let him know, in that same notice, and I'll read it. I actually want to read that one day, because that was a really scary moment for me. But I also remember saying that I appreciate being a part of this fraternity, because we've come for so long. You know what I'm saying? We've come so far, and we've had an opportunity to change things. And if we continue to work with each other, continue to press the narrative forward of how great we are, of what we can accomplish. I mean, who would have expected a black president in 2008,
Right.
right? So it's like, there is progress, but at the same time, we're still stuck in that space, and
Yeah.
so anyway, I'm going off on a tangent,
No, no,
but
no.
I
But
just remember that emotional space that I was in, and and the things that we had to do. I remember as a company even having to make a decision, because we're now in this virtual world. What are we going to do now? Because everyone is like, oh my gosh, there's so much fear. And, coming from the mental health counseling background, I'm always in the space of, all right, how do I offer assistance? And so
Yeah.
I remember in like March coming up with the idea. My boy TL Cross, he had shared some information with me, which helped confirm. I think at the time it was Spike Lee. He had put a script out and said, "Hey, this is a script called Jackie Robinson. It's never been read before. I want you guys to just enjoy it." And I remember it was like, wow, he gave everyone his script. But I was like, yo, what if we take this script, right, and we create this, because everyone was at home, and we create like this virtual stage table read, and we could do it live. And we ended up doing it. So I
Oh
teamed up with a
wow.
casting director. Yeah, teamed up with a casting director out of LA. She helped me bring on people in the United States and Canada. It was crazy. It was international. It was amazing. We had over 100 people all together,
Wow.
and we did the first ever, probably the only live table read on IG Live. We had Robbie Reed, right,
Oh
from
yes,
BET.
Robbie.
She came in the room. We had like a whole backroom experience. We had Monty Ross, who was one of the founders of 40 Acres and a Mule. He came out, to offer some words of inspiration. My brother Turk came in. He was a part of, the executive team. Tracy Baker Simmons, one of the pioneers of the reality television. So we just had an amazing experience. We brought in a lot of great talent. Folks that you see out there that's winning right
Yeah.
now, like Gail Bean, Shannon Wallace, Tobias, of course,
Yeah.
Lamar K. Chester. I'm going on and on.
You,
Stephen
you
Jack,
did see 100 and some
Stephen
people.
Barrington. Yeah. A lot of great folks. But anyway, that was one of the things. I look frozen on the screen here. Can you hear or see me?
I can see you and I can hear you,
Okay.
but you are frozen. You're like,
All right. Oh, there we go. Hey, freeze tag. And I'm not going into detail, but I'll tell you, we did two other things. I have to say this because
okay, say it, say it,
you
say it.
bringing up, it's your fault.
Oh, it's
You
my
bringing
fault.
up,
I'll take it.
COVID really puts me back in that space. But I remember doing two other amazing things. Oh, first of all, we did that on Jackie Robinson Day on the
Okay.
15th.
Oh wow.
So it was
Amazing.
amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. The two other things we did is we did the first ever live red carpet for Equal Standard. Ice-T film, Tobias, Tahim Bryan, God rest his soul, Trigger Tretch, a whole bunch of different amazing folks were a part of that. We did that live. And then I teamed up with the local school district, and we brought in a lot of the kids, and we did a video on social distancing. So we had fun,
Right.
in the midst of COVID.
Right. And
Yeah.
so here's the thing, when you were talking about the transitions and the mindset and the things that our African American men have to endure, there's so many different mental or mental disorders that our African American men and just men in general suffer from. They suffer from depression, anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, substance use disorder, bipolar. These are just to name a few of some of the impact that our environment. And so, with that being said, PTSD for the African American community, our men suffer, most of them suffer from PTSD. That's where you're having flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety attacks.
Anxiety, huge. Yes.
Yeah, uncontrollable thoughts about traumatic events. Does that not sound like where
Yeah.
we live most, where often, oftentimes where our African American men have to walk through, not just in their community, but
Mm-hmm.
just like when we saw on the news how they were just running, just jogging, just minding their own business, and then they're being targeted. It's almost
Yeah.
like we're animals. So it is a true thing. And I think one
Absolutely.
of the things that used to hurt our community as a whole, even to this day, is when we see, and we're not, minimizing anyone else's situations, like when they have the shootings at the schools. And most of the time, it's at the hand of a Caucasian.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that the newscaster will say, yes, this person was suffering from, he had
Oh.
severe anxiety disorder. He was
Mm-hmm.
on 5 medication. He was going to this. He also had suffered from depression.
Right.
All of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's correct. I mean,
They could be depressed because their mom said they couldn't buy another gun. Okay. I mean, let's just be real. Okay. I'm sorry,
yeah,
y'all.
I think that it's the benefit of the doubt that everyone else gets but us. And I see that, in the real world, where something happens to one person and it's like, we know why you did that. This is what your intentions were. Where, and that's often like a black person or a person of color. And then, on the flip side, you may have, someone else who, in the same category, may show up and make a mistake, and they're often given the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe you didn't mean to do that. So so yeah, that disparity definitely exists. And mental health often is, when it comes to us, it's sometimes it's overlooked, and it's
Yeah.
definitely something that uh, I'm glad that we're talking more about it, because it's, these kind of things that, can hopefully shed more and more light to it, so that folks can get the benefit of the doubt, for sure.
Question for you.
Yep.
Why do men resist or fear getting help, in your opinion? And they can
Yeah,
all the men.
I'll tell you. So there's the fear of feeling inadequate as a man. I mean, again, it's that role of, being able to handle everything, right? Being that, let everyone else dump on you, and you hold it, right? You're the holding space, you know, and you, as a holding space, putting something down. What does that say about you? So there's these roles that we are, that I believe, men believe that they have to live up to, you know, and again, there's nothing wrong with being strong. I think that
Nothing
I
wrong with being
don't
a
want
little
to,
vulnerable.
yeah, I don't want to dismiss that. But you have to have a way of releasing. You have to have a way of dumping, because when things pile up over time, when it falls over, there's so much more that comes out, as opposed to when something falls in, you pour it out. Falls in, it's called flooding.
Mm-hmm.
When it falls in, you just pour it out, pour it out. You don't want it to flood to the top, so that when it finally gets tipped over, you explode and you lose it. So yeah, I think that there's it still exists. This stereotype of, not sure, it's to be vulnerable, to express feelings. That's it's a considered a feminine trait. You know,
Right. And then women don't find it sexy. Like
yeah.
that was another conversation is
Hmm.
when you meet a nice guy, it's like he's nice,
Mm.
but they have the
But
but
he's
so
too nice. They want that bad boy. They want the bad boy. Yeah,
so
I mean,
it's
look.
so it's the fear of so ladies, and I hope we're paying attention, ladies, because some things is our fault. We'll be it's definitely on us. And some things it's the guy, we're not trying to post blame, but what we are trying to do is figure out a way that we can coexist
Yeah,
and aid each other. And so,
yeah,
ladies, having a good guy is just that he's a good guy, and there's nothing wrong with a good
that
guy, but it's putting a lot of pressure on the men.
good guys can be bad boys too. Don't think.
Ah, so why you talking like so are you trying to say you a good guy?
Oh, I'm a very good guy, and I'm not implying anything other than, in
You're
general. In general, good guys can be bad boys too. You know what I'm
right.
saying? So, um, you know, and I get it, right? It's that element of surprise. It's that desirable
The
piece, right? Or
mystery.
desiring. Yeah, look, part of that also comes from the media space, right? It comes from these roles over time, but this is what's been glorified. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? This is what we see.
Yeah.
That's what's in our music. That's what's in our movies. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So it's like, if so, people have to be able to think bigger than that, right? They have to be able to look outside of that,
Beyond that.
and
beyond
And
the life.
because you can have flavor, you just have to be able to do it in your own way. You know what I'm saying? You got to be
Absolutely.
able to do it in your own way, and not a, it doesn't really exist. I mean, it doesn't exist for everybody, I should say. But that's an amazing thing when you can do that. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? And so that's what I encourage, because it also brings, so some people say it's boring. These people are boring. They're still, they're bland. They don't get the kind of attention. I think you got to check yourself just a little bit and understand, what is it that you really want? You know what I'm saying? Do you want
And what
someone,
is it you really need?
and what you really need? Say that again. Yeah.
Because what we want, because I know Judge, I think it was Judge Taller, she was like, okay, so if you keep having failed relationships,
Mm-hmm.
do you really know what you want?
Wait, if you keep having what kind of relationships?
Failed relationships, like
That
you keep like you
fail. Yeah,
failed. So you know how I'd be like, I know what I want. Well,
got
is
you.
that really what you need? Like,
Right.
just because that's what you want, it may not be what you need
Yeah.
because it is failing, and you may think that you really know. So maybe sometimes you have to step outside of the box. So I
Yeah.
have another question for you, because
Let me just say something real quick to that with the
yeah.
relationships. I had a really deep conversation with someone special earlier today. It was about relationships, and it was a question surrounding around um, you know what they're bringing to the relationship. And I think one of the things we ended on in the conversation was really closer to coming to the relationship with an open mind, right? And coming to the relationship without all of the expectations, right? Because when you have all of those expectations in there and you're trying to press it toward those, thinking the camera's here. You keep trying to work toward those expectations, but that's not really where the relationship was set up to go. Sometimes you have to come in there open to see how it moves and flow organically. And if it happens to roll into those spaces that you were expecting, then that's an amazing thing. If not, then you got to move on. You know what I'm saying? So it was just interesting that you're talking about relationships right now and failed relationships, because a lot of times we're the reason for it and we don't realize that.
Oh, you know what? That was a really because Wink.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I mean, ladies, back me up, okay, ladies, back me up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes y'all be having us thinking we crazy. Like we didn't hear, we don't feel the way we do, and it's not necessarily justified. And so it's really good to hear that sometimes the men are to blame, but also I can truly say, ladies, that sometimes when we allow things to transpire over and over again, we're
Mm-hmm.
to blame.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we also to blame. And yes, we hold on to the hope of this person. So here's another conversation I had with someone. We talked about ladies hold on to the vision and the whole scene of who that representative was that went on the first day or the second
Mm,
or the third day. We hold on to that whole scene, that whole representation of who that person was.
got you.
You see what I'm saying? Because
Got
once,
you.
when we're meeting someone for the first time, all that good stuff, we kind of like sending representatives, right?
Mm-hmm.
We think he might like this, yeah, I'm just gonna eat a salad. And yeah, I'm not bitchy. I don't
Mm-hmm.
raise my voice. I don't put my hands on guys,
Uh,
that's a representation, a representative that comes for you. The
right.
guy opening the door, take you
Right.
to
Right.
an
Good.
elaborate restaurant,
Yeah.
calling you that.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
a representative. And
Yeah.
so sometimes, ladies, we hold on to who showed up on the first date and not who showed up on the 10th date.
Got you.
And
Got
so and we keep playing that over and over again in our heads.
you. Mm-hmm.
How's your mental health, ladies?
Mm.
So that's and I check myself on a regular. Like,
Right. Right.
now is that now who's mental? Sometimes you have to be just that frank with yourself, like, okay, are you all right, girl? Are you all
Right.
right? My guy, are you okay? So look,
Yeah.
talking about relationships, and I know we're almost, let's see. Okay, we got 10 minutes, and it's two things that
Okay.
I really want to talk about really
All
quick.
right. Go ahead.
Why? I keep saying why. Why men don't really verbalize, or like when y'all shooting the breeze, hanging out, when y'all, because I think now that therapy is more acceptable,
Mm-hmm.
more people are talking about it, like they go to wash their car, they're going to therapy sessions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Why do men don't have those wholesome brotherhoods? You may find them in certain
Mm-hmm.
situations, but more often than not, men, their friendships are, yo, what's up? And they joking on each other, cracking on each other,
Gotcha.
going to the bar. But
Right. 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 Right.
with women, we're delving in and we're saying, okay, how can I help you? Okay, what is the issue? Or at least we're talking about it.
Got it. Yeah. So let me say this. I'm not the spokesperson for all men, but
Absolutely not.
from my perspective, I think that is slowly but surely changing,
Okay.
right? Um, and again, I think it comes down to, the kind of product that you're dealing with, right? Because we're all products of our environments,
Facts.
right? And so if that's not the kind of space that you're used to mixing in, it's not going to happen. But but what I am seeing is a lot of, so here's the funny thing. I went to a barber the other day. I cut my own hair, but I took my son to the
I was getting
barber
ready to
the
say,
other
so why
day.
did you go to the barber? But go ahead.
Yeah. And their conversations, the way the conversations work is very like competitive, right? There's a lot of like banter going on. I think they were talking about the Knicks, and at the time it was the Knicks and the Celtics. I was in New York at the time, so it was the Knicks and was it Philly? Who did they play after Philly? I forget. Whoever they played after Philly, they were going back and forth and they were just killing each other. And so that's the kind of banter that usually happens. But I think, the there are more and more men that are having those conversations. And let's backtrack a little bit too. I think the origins of this really comes from childhood up,
Oh yeah.
and I think there has to be a level of encouragement coming even from like the elementary school programs, of
Good.
social emotional intelligence. you know
Yes.
what do how do you communicate what's on your mind, right? Even when you're being reprimanded and you're right, how do you find an effective way to communicate your feelings? And I
Yeah.
think that the practice over time needs to start much earlier. And
Yeah.
when that kind of thing happens, it rolls into adulthood. I think you're still looking at a generation, especially of the men, 40 plus,
Yeah.
it's just banter. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of banter, and that's the level of communication. They're not trying to roll into that space of showing, and some are, but showing that sensitivity side, and then of course having conversations of substance. That's the other thing, that the conversation should have some kind of substance,
Yes.
and people being intimidated to do that, you
Yeah.
know, and so they'd rather just talk about the
And they
nonsense.
don't want, right, and they don't want to put themselves out there to be to look. So if you think how a man feels about being vulnerable with a woman,
Mhm.
just imagine him being that vulnerable with a guy.
Mhm,
And then
mhm, mhm.
the other guys gonna be like, yo, you weak. If
Yeah,
not,
I think that depends on. I mean, look,
count
vulnerability
your
can just be
friendship.
in my eyes, is just being honest.
Yeah. Oh,
You know
that's
what I'm saying?
good.
Just
Yes.
being honest. It doesn't have to be. It could be people talking in a circle, and because you're the only one. See, what often happens is peer pressure into a certain kind of conversation, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay to have your own response and coming from your own space, and that's being able to tap inside. That's the space I think is now growing, but that's the piece that has not been existing as much as it should be, the opportunity to really lean into your own personal space to be able to lead your conversations or to give your input, so yeah, I mean, I think the vulnerability thing, if that's the word that we're using. I've been told that sometimes I use the wrong words to explain certain things, but the vulnerability space is a space that is evolving for Black men, and I think it is coming from the surge to make sure that you are checking in with your mental health and your mindset. And I think it'll nothing's going to be perfect, but I think we'll continue to get better over time.
Right. And I would say ladies and men, ladies, please continue to check on your male friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even also starting the dialogue as we say about mental health with your significant other, because it will only better your relationship with each other, better his relationship with his peers,
Mm-hmm.
better his relationship with his children, most importantly,
Yes.
because he has to water them so that they can become productive citizens in the society. And so that when he goes into the boardroom, when he goes into the workplace, that he is a great representation and he
Yeah.
feel worthy
Yeah.
to be there. And oftentimes they don't feel worthy. I always go back to the movie, Denzel Washington movie. Was that Piano Lesson?
Which one? The Antoine
No,
Fisher,
no.
um,
Denzel Washington, he and
Greatest Debaters.
Viola Davis. Viola Davis.
Oh,
Um,
oh, oh.
was that Piano Lesson? I keep
Fences.
Fences. That's right.
Yeah.
Piano Lesson, the other thing that he wrote that
Yeah.
August Wilson wrote.
Yeah.
But do you see how, like, especially back then, wherein they had to be hard because
Mm,
they had to be that provider.
mm.
But it's just like you said,
To be that provider, but also to fend for themselves in this in the world,
yeah,
right? Because not only are you dealing with regular life stuff, you have that added pain of how you're treated as a Black man in this world. So you have to be tough. You have to hold yourself up. If not, you're gonna drown. And so you're kind of, you're put in this position to kind of have that hard exterior, and
yeah.
and that translates at home as well.
Yeah. So listen, everybody, I'm gonna say one thing. I'm gonna play this video, and he's going to talk about his book. And then we're gonna go for tonight. But
Yep.
one of our next conversations that we will be having is really near and dear to my heart, because I know a lot of people who are trying to navigate their way in this arena, and that is absent fathers or fathers, yeah, absent fathers, and how the adult child and the parent or the
Mm-hmm.
father
Mm-hmm.
try to mend that fence. And
Yeah.
sometimes, and I'll say this and then we'll go to the commercial break, but sometimes when we are trying to mend that relationship, oftentimes men don't even know how to articulate that. You know how when you feel like you need to tell somebody something, but then the sting is gone a little bit, and then the next day turn into the next day, and then you look up, it's 10 years. And
Mm-hmm.
then because it's so long, then you're saying, like, they probably
Yeah.
not even don't even want to hear what I have to say because so much
Right.
time has passed.
Right.
But as the adult child, oftentimes when we are trying to articulate our feelings to our fathers, it comes from a broken place. It comes from that child that's speaking, that
Wow.
was hurt, and not that adult.
Yeah.
So the language that you're saying, they don't understand it because you're talking as a child
Mm-hmm.
and not as an adult.
And
And
saying that seriously.
say it
Mm.
again.
So they may not be taking you seriously.
Or don't know how to, because they cannot make
Mm.
up for lost time.
Mm.
They can't take you to the prom now. They
Mm.
can't take you to the movies now. But when you was that kid looking out the window and waiting for your father to come, and then there were empty promises
Mm.
that you cannot get back.
Right.
But what you can get is a whole relationship, a whole
Mm.
relationship, if both parties are willing to thug it out
Had that honest conversation.
and
Yeah.
make it work, because I think both parties are so worthy of it. So what
Mm.
we're gonna do, y'all, this has been a really great conversation. We could talk about
Yeah.
on and on and on, because it's so prevalent, so important in our community that we address these issues, so that when we show up, we're showing up um,
Absolutely.
as our best selves. So let me play this little clip, and then I will come right back.
The Pocketbook of Quotes, An Actor's Guide to Motivation, is a book filled with affirmation quotes geared toward keeping the actor or creative motivated during his or her journey. We specifically delve into the areas of different perspectives, acting and audition tips, the acting business, growth mindset, motivation, validation, perseverance, the MVPs, self-love, strategy, and preparation. The goal is to help the actor or creative stay above the fray so that they are always able to put their best foot forward. Be so intrigued about what can happen that you can care less about what can't.
Y'all didn't see this. But while he was watching, because I could see him watching himself,
Ah.
he was like, "Okay, that's not too bad."
uh-huh.
And guess what, y'all? It's okay to be proud of yourself.
Ah. You know
It's,
what it is? If I can be honest with you,
you can.
we're in this business, when you're in the business of service, you don't really get a chance so much to pay attention to yourself as much, right? You have actors that you're constantly trying to push forward. You're in these rooms, you're pitching, you're putting together packages, you're writing emails, you're doing events with them if that's the space that you're doing. So you're offering these services, so you never really get a chance to sit down and hear. Like, someone read to me my bio the other day, and I was like,
Oh,
all right,
wow.
that's kind of cool.
So,
Because you don't really you like, I feel like I know much more about my clients than I know about myself sometimes.
yeah.
So anyway, to watch that was like, all right, cool. That's cool. But
Where
yeah,
can
that's my book.
they find the book?
Huh?
Where can they find the book?
Yes, yes. Come to the page. So the Pocketbook of Quotes, An Actor's Guide to Motivation. The motivation behind putting that together was really paying attention to, the audience, right? The folks that come into the DMs, the people that are sending emails. Everyone's looking for help, in terms of this volatile business. But not everyone is able to get representation, unfortunately. So it was like, hey, what can we do as a broad swipe, to try to help the public? And so it was, hey, with all these years of experience, why not, pinpoint certain pillars and create something fun and easy for them to read, like quotes, something something that can empower them, something that's motivational, and something small enough that they can put in their pocket when they go in on these auditions. So if you're ever getting into that space of doubt, if you're getting into that space where you need to look deeper into your self-love for yourself, if you want to, even look at certain tips, that's going to help you in the audition room and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what this book is for. Is to help you during your journey, because there's no way that you're going to be able to put your best foot forward if you're constantly
Validate.
doubting yourself. You have to be able to have your mind in the right place to put your best performance on. And if you can put your best performance on, that's the best you can do. Just get out of there and move on to the next, because everything else is out of your hands, to be honest with
Absolutely. You're
you,
absolutely right.
and it's the most painful thing I see often is when folks sit and wonder what happened, so it's like, get in the mindset of preparing yourself so much that you drop everything on the floor and it doesn't matter what happened. You know what I'm saying? You keep it moving to the next. And often I see that that's when phone calls come in. When people go in and just drop it and keep it moving. I'm dropping this. Here's my bomb. I hope I blew your head off and keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what the hope is. Prepare yourself so much, put yourself in that mindset to go in there, book the room, keep it moving, because more than likely, if that project right there didn't work out, something else down the road will, and you did your job.
Ronald Wink Woodall. It has been such an honor and a pleasure for us to have this chat this evening. I am just so excited. And like I was telling you earlier today, the show can be 10 minutes or it can be an hour and 10 minutes. It just all depends upon the subject matter, what we have to talk about,
Yeah.
and we feel led to talk about. Because I don't know about anybody else that have their own platform as it relates to mental health, but it
Mhm.
is very important to me.
Yes.
Extremely important to me for my own mental stability. This, for
Yeah.
me, actually, guys, I started this show
Mm.
um, for my mental health, just for me to stay level headed and to stay focused. And because of the things that I was going through, I was just like, no, let's talk about it.
Wow, look at what it involved to. I have to say, I'm very, very proud of you,
Thank you.
and excited for you and your future. I know a little bit more about you than most of the public do. So I know that the sky is the limit and the world better be ready for Miss Natasha Barnes-Owens. Congratulations to you and all that you have going on and everything that you're going to be doing. And
Yeah.
make sure anybody on here who's paying attention, make sure you like, you share, and you subscribe to Mental Moments. This
Yeah.
is this is what's happening right now. She's out there saving lives, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you. I'm honored to be a part of this.
Yes, we are definitely saving lives one
Mhm.
conversation at a time. And what I want to say to everybody out there, thank you for coming back every single week on Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our mental moments. And I'm just going to say to you, never give up. Just
Never.
really keep going. And when you do feel that you want to give up, I'm not saying don't take a moment to recharge. We
Right.
got to, and it's okay.
Right.
But what you do the next moment or the next moment is very pivotal.
Mm.
Yes,
Indeed.
I'm
Indeed.
listening. You had something to say?
No, you said never give up, and
Never,
one of the shirts that we sell says never ever give up.
never, ever, ever.
but
In other words, we said
but
never,
to your,
ever, ever give
ever
up.
ever. But to your point, you have to know when to take a break. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't quit.
And that is the theme. Thank you. Look, we so in sync. That's
Mhm.
the theme for Men Mental Health Awareness Month is take the moment.
Mm.
Men, a guy I had on the show, and we're gonna hang up. I had on the show a couple of weeks ago. He
Mhm.
said he felt guilty. He
Yeah.
felt like he
Oh yeah.
didn't deserve to take a sick day or to take a break, to take a
Yeah.
mental break.
I
And
get that.
what we're saying, men, you deserve it.
Mm.
Take a moment. Take
Right.
that moment. So that is the theme for Men Mental Health Awareness Month is men, take that moment.
Take
You're
them.
so worth it. This has been another episode of Mental Moments. We will see you again next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care of yourself. We'll see you next week.
Take care.